Hello future officers, welcome to the session with regards to MIB. Now MIB is Marks Improvement Booklet. Now the whole idea or purpose of taking this particular session is to solve one of the biggest problems while writing mains, and that is how do we recall the facts, the data, the anecdotes, the case studies. जेनरिक चीजें तो सभी को पता है, स्पेशली विद रिगार्ड्स टू ज्योग्राफी एनवायरनमेंट. आज 6 क्लास के स्टूडेंट्स को भी पता है दैट global warming is an issue. But when it comes to mains, these datas and everything, we must remember. Right? So the whole idea or objective is to quickly give you a glance that what is important and what should we remember while writing our mains. So beginning with biodiversity of India. Now, when we talk about biodiversity, we should know that India has what 2.4% of the entire land which is there in the world. Also, India has 10 biogeographical regions: Trans-Himalaya, Himalaya, semi-arid. Then we have Gangetic plains, deserts, islands, and whatnot. Also, when it comes to biodiversity, so we must remember that India is home to what 4 global biodiversity hotspots, and these are Himalayas, Western Ghats, Indo-Burma, also Sundaland, which covers the area of Andaman Nicobars. Next, State of India's Environment Report. So, State of India's Environment Report, क्यों पढ़ना चाहिए? What are the key takeaways which we can utilize while writing our answers? First things first, this is released by CSC, that is Center for Science and Environment. So the key highlights are encroachment. Over 30,000 of the water bodies, they have been encroached upon. Also, India generates what 1.5 lakh tons of municipal solid waste every single day. It's a huge issue which you can utilize while writing. If we talk about air pollution, so 4 years and 11 months is the average duration which is lost as a consequence or ill effect of air pollution. If we talk about environmental crimes, so courts need to decide on a daily basis 245 cases. Now that's a huge number if we have to clear the backlog. Also, extreme weather events like droughts, floods, cyclones, tsunamis, and whatnot. So it was found that between January and October 2022, that is, out of this 304 days, we had extreme weather events on 271 days. Now this data can definitely give you an edge while writing the answer. And when it comes to SDGs, that is Sustainable Development Goals, so India's overall global rank, it has slipped by 9 places. Next, very important is the 6th mass extinction. Mass extinction sabhi ko pata hai, like dinosaurs, they get extinct and everything. Now why this is important? This is important because this is the keyword Anthropocene extinction, Anthropocene era or epoch. So we are entering or have entered into this particular phase where human beings, the activities of humans are driving the species towards extinction. And currently more than 1,50,000 species on the IUCN red list, these are there. So number of species, these are threatened. It is not possible to remember the data exactly like 42,000 and 100. So you can just mention that around 42,000 species, these are threatened with extinction. And you can also quote about IBPES reports 2022, which clearly stated that 1 out of 5 they source their food from what? Wild animals, plants, fungi. This shows the importance or significance of biodiversity. But at the same time, World Wildlife Funds, there's a report which is published by WWF, and that is Living Planet Report year 2022, and it has got some alarming data. That is, this publication, it has revealed that have an average decline of 69% in the species from year 1970. और क्योंकि geography का पेपर है, environment का पेपर है, so definitely we can show the data with the help of world map, where you can show in North America it's 20%, that is the loss of biodiversity. When it comes to Latin America and Caribbean, it is 94%. Now that's huge. Also, if we talk about Africa, this is 66%, and likewise for Asia and Asia Pacific and Eurasian region. This is how you can present your data. So that was the part of the problem. Now, if you can mention about 30 by 30 framework, it would be a very good if you mention this as a part of conclusion, that the world has agreed during COP15 December 2022 to protect at least 30% of planet's lands, oceans, coastal areas, inland waters by year 2030. This you can utilize while giving solution. Also, very important natural resources, forest. And how do we come to know the status of forest in India? What is the tree cover? What is the forest cover? Now these are different, please pay attention, these are extremely different. So total forest and tree cover of India is 80.9 million hectares, which is 24.62%. Now these numbers, these are a must. If we talk about total forest cover, so it is 21.7%. And we have some alarming data here also. That is the Himalayan states like J&K, which is now a UT of course, Ladakh, Leh, Himachal, Uttarakhand. These are extremely vulnerable to extreme weather events. Now there is an overview of forest conservation. आप सभी ने पढ़ा होगा कि हमें कुछ specifics mention करना चाहिए. If we talk about say in society, then articles pertaining especially to women should be remembered. Now if we talk about environment, so definitely you must remember Article 48A also as a part of fundamental rights, so fundamental duties, that is Article 51AG, you must quote. If we talk about the policy and schemes, so National Afforestation Program, extremely important. National Mission for Green India. Also problem of desertification is there. So there you can mention what? You can mention about Great Green Wall, which is inspired from the Great Green Wall of Africa. National Forest Policy 1988. Then you can mention what is the legal framework. So if we talk about forest, so it started from Indian Forest Act 1927. Then we had Forest Conservation Act 1980. And recently we had amendment rule in year 2022. Then very important, इस पे अलग से क्वेश्चन आ सकता है, that is Wildlife Protection Act. Earlier we used to have what, 6 different schedules, but now they have been brought down to 4 different schedules. And forest and tribals, these are intricately linked. You cannot separate them. So that is why what we have is Forest Rights Act. Year is 2006, and ministry is Ministry of Tribal Affairs. आप सभी ने ये पढ़ा होगा. And you can quote this case study, that Polavaram irrigation project. It is India's biggest project in terms of rehabilitation. And Odisha is the first state of the country to make budgetary provisions for the implementation of the Central Act. Next and very important, sustainable city development. सब पढ़ के आए होंगे sustainable development to meet the future, to meet the present generation demand, also the future demand. But this definition was given by which commission? 1987 Brundtland Commission. Must remember this fact. Also, why we need to study about cities? We need to study about cities because urbanization is increasing, and you can quote this data that India's urban population is estimated to stand at 675 million in year 2035. And the second highest, it is the second highest, of course, behind China's 1 billion. And if human beings, the population of humans are increasing, so does the waste that is generated by humans. It is increasing. You specifically remember Sustainable Development Goal number 11, that is to make cities and human settlements more inclusive, safe and resilient. Because cities are not merely the settlements of humans. These are actually the drivers of economic growth. These are the engines on which our economy is driven. And what is the sustainable city? So आप simple एक बहुत simple एक Venn diagram create कर सकते हैं, wherein you can mention sustainable, social, environment and economic. So information सभी को पता होगा, but it is actually how do you present your stuff, what you know, to the examiner in a very lucid manner, in a very coherent manner. That is actually going to help you. If you make the job of the examiner easy, he or she would make your marks. So I hope you got the point. Now the case study, you can have some case studies like recycled park in Rotterdam, that is Netherlands. Also you can mention about Sustainable Cities India program, that is World Economic Forum and the National Institute of Urban Affairs. There is a collaboration in this. Then coming to wetlands. Now wetlands can be defined in a number of ways. There is a separate definition for Ramsar sites. There is a separate definition with regards to Conservation and Management Rules 2017. So it defined wetlands as area of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salty, it including the areas of marine water with a depth of which at low tide does not exceeds 6 meters. Now this is highly technical, but do remember in year 2018 UPSC ने specifically question पूछा that what do you understand by the wise use of Ramsar sites, and cite 2 examples. Then what is the status of wetlands in India? So it is spread in more than 1.5 lakh square kilometers, which is around 4.63% of total geographical area. At least you can remember that it is over 4% of India's geographical area. It would be good if you can remember 4.63 to be precise. Also, 70 to 80% of individual fresh water marshes and lakes in the Gangetic floodplains have been lost in the 5 decades. Now this is really concerning. And why is it so? Merely declaring Gangetic dolphin as our national aquatic animal won't serve the purpose. Steps should be taken at the ground level, right? So this data you can remember. In the last 50 years, we have lost 70 to 80% of the individual fresh water marshes. At present, 50% of India's wetland remain. That is, we have lost 50% of them. And they are disappearing at the rate of 2 to 3% every year. Now, what is the state of affairs with regards to Ramsar sites? How many Ramsar sites do we have in India at present? So, we are in the Amrit Mahotsav Kaal, right? Celebrating what? 75 years of independence. तो बहुत आसान है याद करना. इंडिया के अंदर अभी इंडिया has what 75 designated wetlands which cover over what 13 lakh hectares of land. So, Ramsar wetland sites, you can go through the recent ones and you can just remember 2 or 3. That would be good to go. Then wetland conservation initiatives. Always think on this line, especially in mains with regards to any topic. What is the topic like? What is the definition? Is there any report? Is there any data which you can begin your answer with? What are the issues or the challenges that particular ecosystem is facing? And finally, what are the steps that has been already taken by the government at the central level, at the state level, at the local level, or at the international level, international collaborations? Also, what is the way forward? So we are reading about wetland conservation initiatives that have already been taken place. So wetlands conservation and management rules 2017. Also National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystem 2015. So we have number of programs, but most recent, very important, is MISTI program. You must have gone through this MISTI program, that is Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Incomes. It was given as a part of what budget this particular year. And what are the global initiatives? Now Ramsar Convention needs no introduction. Also Montreal's Accords, they needs no introduction. This you should remember, Mangrove Alliance for Climate, because COP27 at Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt was very much in news. And it was at this particular event that UAE and Indonesia, it announced what? Mangrove Alliance for Climate, and India is a part of it. So you must use this if a question comes. Are there any case studies? Yes, they are there. And that is Chandigarh's wetland conservation training for teachers. Also, you can remember Sindhudur in Maharashtra, which engaged the community, because any policy, any program, it would remain a toothless tiger if it is not implemented in letter and spirit. And for that to happen, people's participation is the key. Also, you can mention about MIRA tool, which helps the Bengaluru citizens in order to resolve the issue with regards to lakes. Bengaluru, extremely famous for IT. It is considered what? Silicon hub, Silicon Valley of India. But every year we see what? Urban floods. So in that regard, MIRA tool comes handy. Right? Next, and very important, nature-based solutions. Now what are nature-based solutions? अलग से भी question पूछा जा सकता है. Now before coming to this nature-based solution, सबने ध्यान दिया होगा, during Corona period, the rivers cleaned themselves, the air it purified itself, it got pured without any intervention. So nature has great power. So if we look at the definition now, this is very important. So it involves working with the nature to address societal challenges, providing benefits for both human well-being as well as biodiversity. Because sabhi ko pata hai ki if development takes place, then what happens? Environment takes a back seat. But it is not the case if we utilize nature-based solution. As an example, biochar, it can reduce greenhouse gas emission for the sequestration purpose. Also, you should mention in your answers about seagrass. It has the capacity to sequester carbon twice in comparison to the tropical forests. Biochar, restoring of mangroves along the coastal regions, river regeneration through the plantations. That is the hard and the soft solutions with regards to the coastal erosion. And transforming our cities into resilient spaces. For example, Miyawaki technique, ये पूछा था prelims में. So why don't we take the help of prelims? In fact, biorock technology, that is in order to conserve what? Coral reefs. So all of these are what? These are nature-based solutions. Now, this is how we can present our answers in a much better way. That is how different nature-based solutions can work together across landscapes. So landscapes like mountain, forest and watersheds, rivers and wetlands, farmland, cities, coast, everything has a hazard attached to it. But it is the intervention of nature-based solution which is going to come in handy. Also very important are sustainable food systems. So India held the first national dialogue on agri-food systems at Delhi. in order to create this sustainable and equitable food systems. And some of the very important of the key government initiatives are Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, because it introduced us to sustainable water conservation practices. Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which has an impetus on organic farming, Sikkim being the first organic state. National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, for agro-marine processing. So food processing, har saal it is a repeated theme. Then we can utilize this climate resilient agriculture. So indigenous food system of Khasi community of the Nagaland, you can use this as a case study. Next is gross environment product. So Uttarakhand, it became the first state in India to take into account gross environment product while calculating its state GDP. Happy Planet Index, Bhutan's gross national happiness. Bhutan, despite being a tiny Himalayan state, it is an example for the entire world that how to live in sync with Mother Nature. And in Sweden, since 2003, it has brought various environmental indicators. Also, if you have gone through the current affairs, you must have come across what? Liquid trees to check what? Rising air pollutions in Serbia, Europe. And UN resolution, very important. A clean and healthy environment is a human right. So this was back in 2022. So it was actually a historic resolution which recognized clean, healthy and sustainable environment is a human right. India के constitution में क्या कहाँ पे दिया हुआ? It's a human right or a fundamental right. It is very much given as a part of Article 21A, that is right to life. Fine. So our next important theme is with regards to environmental pollution and degradation. So what is the state of affairs with regards to environmental pollution in India? We have already seen that around 4 years and 11 months they are gone on an average in India. So 21 out of 30 most polluted cities in the world are in India. Extreme cause of concern. Globally, yes, please pay attention. You must mention this when it comes to environmental degradation. Globally, India is the top emitter of sulfur dioxides. And we are losing millions of lives every year owing to air pollution. And you can quote Lancet's study report. And India, greenhouse gas emission, India emits about 3 gigatons of greenhouse gases every year. So यहाँ पे हमें targets पता होना चाहिए. We will see all of this. And what are the government initiatives? So quickly, National Clean Air Program, Great Green Wall of Aravallis. Not only it would prevent what? Desertification, it would also aid to check and abate air pollution. Odd even rule in winters in Delhi. Even though it might be a short-term measure, a stop-go measure, but still it is there. Then enforcing BS6 emission standards. Ambitious EV targets. So targets, ethanol blending target, wo pata hona chahiye. EV targets, yes. Indian government has set a target to achieve what? 30% of electrification of country's vehicle fleet by 2030. So 30% of electrification by year 2030. अभी हमने कुछ देर पहले एक और 30 by 30 framework पढ़ा था. That is year 2030 तक at least 30% of world's lands waters they should be conserved. So similarly आप याद रख सकते हैं इसको. Also we have what? Happy seeders to convert agriculture residue into fertilizers. So after what? Air pollution we have water pollution. इंसान है ना, किसी को नहीं बख्शा. एयर में भी पॉल्यूशन, वाटर में भी पॉल्यूशन, नॉइज में भी पॉल्यूशन, लाइट में भी पॉल्यूशन, साउंड में भी पॉल्यूशन. नेक्स्ट इज वाटर पॉल्यूशन. सो 70% of the surface water in India is unfit for consumption. And this is quoted by what? Niti Aayog. So what's World Bank take on the impact of water pollution? So the impact of water pollution increases to loss of almost half of GDP growth. Bin pani sab soon. Next. So we have definitely what? Health cost associated with water pollution. That amounts to, that's a huge number, that is 7 to 9 billion US dollar per year. And it is associated with what? It is associated with waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea. It's a cause of morbidity in below 5-year children, under 5. More than 60% of the sewage generated by urban India, it is untreated. Lack of sanitation and hygiene. So here you can mention about WASH program, water, sanitation and hygiene of WHO. It would go for a toss. Also, how can we expect that without the proper water, we would have a successful water? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. No, it won't happen. So, if we talk about water pollution, so Central Pollution Control Board of India, in year 2018, it has identified 351 polluted river stretches. यहाँ पे आप लिंक कर सकते हैं वाटर पोल्यूशन को. किससे लिंक करेंगे? Biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, problem of eutrophication, harmful algal blooms. So there would be a coherency in your answers. And you can very well mention on a map concentration of polluted river stretches. That almost, yes, please pay attention, almost 60% of polluted river stretches, they exist in 8 states: Maharashtra, Assam, MP, Kerala, Gujarat, Odisha, West Bengal, Karnataka. So what has the government done? Anything? Yes, it has, and it is doing, but still more needs to be done. So first of all, what are the government initiatives? So right to clean water, it's a fundamental right given as a part of Article 21, and it was declared by Supreme Court under Narmada Bachao Andolan case. Also, water conservation, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. Then we have Pollution Cess Act 2003, National River Conservation Plan, centrally sponsored, Namami Gange, again, National Water Policy 2012. But apart from pollution, we also have a problem with regards to depletion. जैसे ही ग्राउंड वाटर डिप्लीशन की बात आती है, सबसे पहले हमारे दिमाग में क्या आना चाहिए? हमारे दिमाग में आना चाहिए कि अगर ये क्वेश्चन आया तो हाउ डू वी इंट्रोड्यूस दिस. जैसे चेस खेलते हैं, चेस में देयर कैन बी नंबर ऑफ ओपनिंग्स. सिमिलरली एक क्वेश्चन के लिए यू कैन हैव मल्टीपल इंट्रोडक्शंस. फॉर एग्जांपल, यू कैन कोट व्हाट? यूनाइटेड नेशंस वाटर डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट 2022. You can also quote UNESCO's World Water Development Report 2018. और दोनों ने एक ही चीज बोली थी. क्या बोला था? That India is the largest extractor of water, ground water. And as a result, अर्थ का जो एक्सिस है वही टिल्ट हो गया. आपने पढ़ा होगा अपने करंट अफेयर्स में. Yes. And you must mention this Central Groundwater Board of India. It estimates that 17% of groundwater blocks, these are over exploited, and 5% are at the critical stages, 14% are at semi critical stages. So we should learn from countries like Israel, where about 90% of water is being recycled. So there is a scope for innovation. And you must remember the names like Dioparville, sabhi ko pata hoga, but you should also remember Charkop Lake in Maharashtra and Austerity Lake in Puducherry, where water bodies have been encroached upon. याद कीजिए स्टार्टिंग हमने कहाँ से की थी? Status of India's environment report given by CSC, wherein we had read that over 30,000 of water bodies, they have been encroached upon. These are the examples. So there comes the role of what? Administration, local government, that have failed actually to preserve these. So what are the government initiatives? So if we talk at the central level, so we have what? We have created Ministry of Jal Shakti in year 2019. You can talk about Atal Bhujal Yojana. You can also mention about Jal Jeevan Mission, urban component, Jal Shakti Abhiyan. You can also talk about Catch the Rain Abhiyan. Do not let the raindrops to go waste. Catch where they fall, wherever they fall. Then RRR. So ये RRR is not a movie. RRR is repair, renovation and restoration of water bodies. Like हर खेत को पानी बचाओ पैसा कमाओ of Punjab. If we talk about सेंट्रल लेवल पे आप बात कर सकते हैं, स्टेट लेवल पे इफ यू टॉक अबाउट यू कैन मेंशन डिफरेंट स्कीम्स लाइक पानी बचाओ पैसा कमाओ ऑफ राजस्थान, सॉरी ऑफ पंजाब. इफ यू टॉक अबाउट राजस्थान, वी हैव मुख्यमंत्री जल स्वावलंबन अभियान. इन हरियाणा व्हाट वी हैव इज जल ही जीवन सुजलाम सुफलाम. इन गुजरात जल जीवन हरियाली. इन बिहार जल युक्त शिविर. इन महाराष्ट्र मिशन काकतिया. इन तेलंगाना नेहरू चिट्टू. इन आंध्रा. अच्छा क्या होगा कि if we draw a map and we can locate all of these, so these can come handy. And a part of case studies you can use Australia groundwater management model, which is hailed world over as a success model. Chennai rooftop water harvesting model, also Hyderabad lake rejuvenation model. So we have number of these, but these needs to be emulated. Then next in series of plastic, after air, after water, what we have? Plastic pollution, considered what? A miracle, a wonder material when it was invented, but now it has become existential threat. And why do we say this? Because 3.5 million metric tons it is generated annually. So this is given as a part of Central Pollution Control Board report. And 40% of packaging needs are fulfilled using plastics. Also, you can mention that plastic waste generation. India generates 13% of global total plastic pollution, pollutants. Sorry. Next, you can connect plastic pollution as a threat to what? Marine resources. देखिए सिर्फ डेटा याद करना, डेटा पढ़ाना इस सेशन का ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं है. इस सेशन का ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि इस डेटा को आप कहां पे यूज करेंगे. इफ अ क्वेश्चन कम्स that how anthropogenic activities these are a cause of concern with regards to ecosystems, so वहां पे आप एग्जांपल के तौर पे बात कर सकते हैं कि human beings they have crossed what 8 billion as a mark population last year, that is 2022, November 2022. So does the anthropogenic waste is increasing. Also single use plastic, it is on a rise. It is increasing by what? 6 million tons on an average per year globally. Then this plastic it gets converted into microplastic. It enters what? Marine food web, and it totally causes a mayhem. So there you can use what? Great Pacific garbage patch as a part of gyres, as a part of ocean currents. This was specifically asked in UPSC. Dead zones. What are dead zones? There is absence of oxygen, that is hypoxia. So UNEP and all you can very well quote. Now what are the government initiatives? So ban of single use plastics from July 2022. Plastic waste management rules 2016 and 2022 amendment was there. Also Unplastic Collective, it is an initiative of UNEP India, CII and WWF Indian branch. Marine plastic pollution we have already touched upon, but you should remember that up to 15 million tons of plastic they get into what? Indian Ocean every year, and we have dead zones and everything. Do we have some global initiatives? Yes, definitely we have, and you should remember these, like London Convention Protocol 1972, prevention of marine pollution by dumping waste and other material. So you can simply remember London Convention, year is 1972. Global partnerships, MARPOL, also GPA, that is Global Program of Action for Protection of Marine Environment from Land-Based Activities, and SDG 14.1, because 14 is related to life below the waters, life under the oceans. So paper का नाम भले से ही हो क्या, GS, that is general studies, but in order to get good marks, if you want to fetch good marks, you have to be specific. Then you can mention about project countermeasure, and it aims to generate, share, disseminate scientific knowledge on plastic pollution, और specifically किस region को target किया जा रहा है? The region is Mekong, Gangas and rivers of Sri Lanka and Myanmar. Also you can talk about Great Blue Wall Initiative, like जैसे हमारे पास land पे Green Wall Initiative है, similarly we have Great Blue Wall Initiative, but India is not a part of this. This was a part of problem. Is the government doing anything to solve this? Yes, government is taking certain measures with regards to solid waste management. तो सबसे पहले हमें यही पता होना चाहिए कि कितना waste generate होता है. We have already talked about it because there is a quotation. What can be measured can be managed. Right? So data इसलिए भी जरूरी है. So India generates 62 million tons of waste every day. And if we categorize that, that becomes a separate thing. So we have solid waste management rule year 2016, and important is segregation at the source, dry and wet and everything. ये सब पता होगा आपको. Next, composite waste management index by Niti Aayog. Then National Action Plan for Municipal Solid Waste Management. We have star ratings specifically given for garbage free cities. तो ये तो हर कोई लिख के आ जाएगा ना, garbage free होना चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए. But if you can mention that Ambikapur of Chhattisgarh is India's first municipal corporation to be free of this, so it would have an impact. और सर याद कैसे करें कौन सी cities में क्या pollution होगा? So it's a very logical, it's very common sensical. Plastic pollution कहाँ पे ज़्यादा होगा? Where tourism footfall is there. E-waste कहाँ पे ज़्यादा generate होगा? More likelihood of e-waste is in parts of what? Bengaluru. So there is points pollution, point source pollution, non-point source solution. Then you can mention about waste minimization circles. E-waste, one of the biggest challenge of our times. सबसे पहले उसको एक या दो लाइन में हमको definition पता होना चाहिए. So it's a generic term used to describe all types of old, end of life or discarded electrical and electronic equipments, and it is considered as the fastest growing waste stream in the world, with an annual volume touching 60 plus billion tons. Now that's a huge number. And definitely we have rules for all of these. So e-waste management rules 2016. Then we had an amendment in 2019. And then as a part of solution, you can mention about circular economy, where we have what? A shift from mindless consumption to mindful, deliberate consumption, recycling, reuse, production, distribution, consumption, all of these. Also specifically इसमें आप क्या याद रख सकते हैं? That India has become the first Asian country to develop plastic packs for building circular systems for plastics. Yes. And we have certain best practices like the Surat model, the Tata Steel. These can be used as a case study. Also, you can mention about KVIC's project Replan, that is reducing plastic from nature. Now, next in line is desertification. So, desertification सबको पता है, it's a big challenge. यहाँ पे अपने आंसर को कैसे आप अच्छा बना सकते हैं? because this is all about marks improvement maximization. So avoid, reduce and reverse. Avoid land degradation, reduce land degradation and reverse it. For that we have desertification and land degradation atlas of ISRO, SDG goal number 15. Government initiatives, yes, definitely government has many initiatives. At international level, India is a party to what? UNCCD, also land neutrality. Also, India has pledged as Bonn Challenge. Bonn Challenge may maybe India is a member of it, right? So India promotes sustainable land management practices like number of things. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, soil health card, soil management scheme, प्रधानमंत्री कृषि सिंचाई योजना. तो ये सब किससे रिलेटेड है? अगर नहीं भी पढ़ के गए सो इट्स वेरी कॉमन सेंसिकल थिंग. लैंड डिग्रेडेशन को रोकने के लिए वी नीड टू कंजर्व व्हाट? मॉइस्चर. एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, it has consolidated the intervention of participatory forest management through National Forest Policy 1988, joint forest management and global efforts I've already mentioned or talked about. So you can read it from here. Next very important is Miyawaki technique. इस साल prelims में भी पूछा गया था, right? Then what we have? Biomedical waste, and yes, do remember about Miyawaki technique that they grow 10 times faster and become 30 times denser and 100 times more biodiverse than which are grown through conventional methods. So they can definitely aid in what? Arresting desertification, especially in urban areas. They can also be a part of solution with regards to urban floods because they would help to recharge the aquifers. So try and link different things. Do not simply ratta nahi lagana na. We do not become parrots. You are aspiring to become officers. So next is biomedical waste. So सबसे पहले definition clear होना चाहिए. So biomedical waste means any waste which is generated during diagnosis, treatment or immunization of human beings or animals. First things first. Next, so since the COVID first wave, India has generated 126 tons of COVID waste. Also, as per WHO, total amount of waste generated by healthcare activities, about 85% is general or generic in nature, which is non-hazardous waste, comparable to the domestic waste. Now this problem lies in this 15%. So 15% is considered hazardous material that may be infectious, chemical or radioactive. So इसको आप कैसे represent कर सकते हैं while you answer writing? Biomedical waste. So if 100 units are there for biomedical waste, 85 these are non-hazardous and 15% these are a cause of concern. और उसके अंदर आप show कर सकते हैं these are chemical, infectious and what? Radioactive. Simple line को आप जितना innovative तरीके से बनाएंगे, it would be more effective. Things remain the same, only the presentation differs, and that would definitely going to make a huge difference. Do we have certain international agreements? Definitely हर कोई पढ़ के आया है. क्या पढ़ के आए? Basel Convention on Hazardous Waste, सभी ने पढ़ा होगा. Only then you are here to write the mains. Stockholm Convention on POPs, that is persistent organic pollutants. Minamata Convention, इसी साल पूछा था. Minamata Convention per se was not asked, but mercury pollution was asked. Also, you can talk about the Blue Book, WHO's Blue Book. It talks about what? Safe management of waste. Like we have IUCN and Red Data list for the threatened and endangered species and whatnot. Similarly, for this biomedical waste, we have blue books. Is the government doing anything about it? Yes, definitely we have all the programs and the schemes, but again the same thing. If it is implemented in true letter and spirit, only then we will see the results. So government initiatives includes Biomedical Waste Management Rules 2016, Next in line, extremely important, that is renewable and clean energy. Renewable and clean energy. So please remember this, India is the world's third largest producer of renewable energy. ये data सबको याद होना चाहिए. With 40% of its installed electricity capacity, it is coming from non-fossil fuel sources, and which includes, of course, the solar, the wind, small hydro, large hydro, biopower, and nuclear energy. Also, very important, today we are fifth when it comes to usable hydropower potential. We are at number 4th when we talk about wind power capacity in the world. And very important, extremely important, in fact पूरे MIB में अगर कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा important है, so these are these lines, that India's vision to achieve net zero emission by 2070, and we have certain short-term targets, that is to increase the renewable energy capacity to 500 gigawatts by year 2030. Also meeting 50% of energy requirements from renewable, reducing cumulative emissions by 1 billion tons by year 2030, and reducing the emission intensity of India's gross domestic GDP by 45% by 2030. So this should be remembered by you. Next, so India has Panchamrit climate commitments made at COP26. Recent COP was COP27 at Egypt, Sharm el Sheikh, सबने पढ़ा होगा. But COP26 was very significant because India made certain commitments, which we have already seen. Then there was a report by Niti Aayog about State Energy and Climate Index 2022. So per capita energy consumption of India is 1/3 of world average. Also you can remember one thing, that on an average an Indian utilizes less than 1/10 of energy in comparison to a citizen of USC. Right? Then in terms of solar energy, wind energy, what is our status? So all of this it is mentioned. Right? And wind energy, solar energy, it was all asked as a part of GS paper 1, that despite being a potential for this solar energy, wind energy, there are regional variations or disparities. So what are the regions? What is the status of solar photovoltaic cell manufacturing in India? So India has imported 13 gigawatt of modules from China. So we are still very much dependent upon China. Similar goes with wind energy. So these data and everything, these are very important for hydropower and nuclear energy. So moving ahead, now very important is green energy mission. And green energy mission के अंदर भी the recent government policy, that is National Green Hydrogen Mission. It was approved by Union Cabinet in year 2022, and it can be very much asked, okay, what are the expected outcomes by year 2030? So this you must remember. Development of green hydrogen production capacity of at least 5 million metric ton per annum. And why this entire topic of green hydrogen is important? It is very important because if a question comes that despite number of challenges of coal, we have we have high amounts of emissions, but still we are not, हम coal को अभी भी छोड़ नहीं रहे हैं, we are still using coal. So is there any alternative to coal? Yes, definitely we have, and that is in form of hydrogen. but it has its own challenges, its own set of challenges and problems. And to address that, we have what? National Green Hydrogen Mission. So what are the objectives of this particular mission? What are the expected projected outcomes by year 2030? We should remember this. Associated renewable energy capacity addition of about 125 gigawatts, over 8 lakh crores of investment, both national and international, creation of over 6 lakh jobs. Then methanol energy. Now methanol is a clean burning fuel which can replace both petrol and diesel in transportation, LPG, wood, kerosene and in cooking. So methanol economy is basically the bridge to the dream of complete hydrogen based fuel solutions. And definitely Niti Aayog has a roadmap for methanol energy to substitute 10% of crude imports by year 2030. Then very important, ethanol blended petrol. India has advanced the target. Yes, India has advanced the target for 20% ethanol blending in petrol by year 2030. So earlier it was 2030, now it is 2025. And we have number of benefits. We have environmental benefits. Our foreign reserves would be saved. Also the farmers would get benefited. They would have extra source of income. So doubling of farmer income as suggested by Ashok Dalwai, it would be a shot in arm for the farmers also. Government initiatives, yes, definitely we have number of them. PM G1. Then you can use what? Gobardhan program or yojana. Next in line is environmental laws which have been in use. So first is Biological Diversity Amendment Act 2021. So among other things, the amendment, it aims to encourage Indian system of medicine like Ayurveda, attract foreign investment in preservation and commercial utilization of India's biological resources. There is a very high probability that this can directly come, this biological diversity bill. What are the issues that it seeks to address and what are the controversies surrounding this particular bill? Also Wildlife Amendment Bill, we have already talked about this. Then we have Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers Act 2001, Dam Safety Act 2021, and finally and the most recent is the Forest Conservation Amendment Bill 2023. So it seeks to encourage plantation, cultivation and ease of creation of national security infrastructure. Then what we have is climate change. अब climate change तो हर किसी को पता है, but एक line में can you define climate change? Because it's the demand of UPSC. Specifically, it has mentioned what we need to write or give answers in a very succinct, meaningful manner. So according to UN, climate change, it refers to long-term shift in temperatures and weather patterns. Simple, that's it. Over, हो गया, right? So we have what IPCC's assessment report. अब देखिए जैसे ही climate change पे कोई question आता है, so you can safely use, you can mention IPCC's report and then you can write about what climate change. And you can make a use of these schematics, that what are the risks that are involved. Climate change causes, impacts, risks. This way you can make your answer more better. Then climate finance issues. So there is always a tussle between developed and developing countries. So all of us should be clear with this. And impact of climate change is more so on the vulnerable section. So यहाँ पे एक ध्यान देने वाली बात क्या है out of this topic is we have a different set of refugees altogether and these are what? Environmental refugees. So आपने पढ़ा होगा migration में there are pushing factors, pulling factors. So this is definitely one of the pushing factors. So climate refugees. And in India, year was 2020, 14 million people, they migrated out of consequence of extreme weather events. अपना घर कौन छोड़ना चाहता है? but it is the climate change. It is, हमने पढ़ा था अभी, yes, that out of 304 days, 271 days India witnessed extreme weather events, and these people, these are huge number, 14 million people, they migrated, not out of what enjoyment, they were forced to migrate. And it is expected that it would forcibly displace 45 million people in India by year 2050. Now that's a huge number, and this migration, it would further add miseries. So it would be what? It would be salt to injury, because carrying capacity of the land, water, ecosystem, they would go for a toss. Next, international convention related to climate refugees. So we have them, like Global Compact on Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration 2018, New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants 2016. Now this is important one, so you can go through these. And climate change impact on women, because women again is one of the favorite themes or topics of UPSC. So you must be very much clear that women, poor and women, may be poor women, will bear the brunt in parts of India, Nepal, Bangladesh. And this is how you make your answer good. Increased workload, and then you give certain points. Poorer health and safety. Climate change ka impact on the children, and you remember certain data. And UN has also issued certain guidelines to protect children. So these are 9 principles for that. Interactions between climate change, people and nature. Climate change, nature and people. In fact, you can also utilize what? Lifestyle for environment, Indian initiative again, nature-based solutions. And when we talk about climate change, so everything is not dark and gloomy, there is still a silver lining. And India, yes, India has ranked among the top 5 countries in the entire world. And if we talk about G20, so India is the best performer in G20 based upon the climate change performance. And in fact, we have jumped 2 places higher, and India is ranked 8th as per climate change performance index, which is published by German Watch and everything. Right. Then Sustainable Development 1987, Brundtland Commission and everything. So this is how you make diagrams. We have 6 interdependent capacities which are deemed necessary for successful pursuit of sustainable development. Right? Social, economic, equitable, environmental and whatnot. Right. Then we have NITI Aayog's report on different sustainable development goals. And very important, tropical cyclones. So up till now अब तक क्या ऑब्जर्वेशन रहता था कि Bay of Bengal was notorious and still it is notorious for cyclogenesis, but the cyclone shy Arabian Sea is seeing the rise in cyclones. सिर्फ ये कहना sufficient नहीं होगा. So for that we need to have examples ready with us. For example, cyclone Vayu 2019, cyclone Nisarg 2020, cyclone Taukit year 2021, and cyclone Biparjoy. So you can see almost every year we have cyclones in Arabian Sea, because there is changing Indian monsoon. Then we have heat waves in India, and not only in India, we have heat waves in Europe, Americas, Asia. And you can very well relate what permafrost, thawing of permafrost, albedos, these are changing, and these are a cause of concern because they cause what? Flash floods, forest fires. In Serbia, we are seeing what? We are seeing forest fires in regions of taiga, tundra. So use these words, taiga and tundra. Use the words higher latitudes when you are writing geography answers. Glacier are melting. So जैसे ही glacier melting आता है, you should use ICIMOD report, Kathmandu based. Yes. that what we have lost 2000 years of glaciers in a mere span of 30 years alone. This is what we are doing to the environment. And these glaciers, these are a source of water for 3 billion people in Asia alone. So have some data handy, and we all talk about Uttarakhand floods. So just mention Chora Bari Tal. It was an example of GLOF. Interlinking project, it has different components. So now resources. So lithium, it was found, lithium, it was discovered, right, in Riasi district of Jammu. And what are the locational factors for any industry? So we have land, power and everything. ये सब पढ़ा होगा, but इसको अच्छे से represent करना is all that matters in the exam. And finally we come to the last part, that is disaster management. In disaster management we have 3 very important stages, that is pre-disaster, during disaster and post-disaster. How do we build back better? What are the different global initiatives? So starting with 1994 Yokohama Declaration, then we have different MDGs, then we have Johannesburg Declaration 2002, then we have Hyogo Protocol, and continuing with that we have Sendai Framework. वो सब आपको पता होना चाहिए. And India, all of us know that NDMA is there. Sendai framework पे अलग से क्वेश्चन पूछा गया था. And when it comes to disaster management, one thing we should remember is the scope for making schematics and diagrams even increases more in this disaster management, because you can show what risks, you can show different types of vulnerabilities, physical, social, economic, environmental. And we have second ARC's recommendation. So second ARC ki recommendation, it is not just limited or restricted to what ethics, quality. So these are also handy when it comes to disaster or crisis management. Different types of disasters. So ये सबने पढ़ा होगा, earthquakes, Pacific Ring of Fire, in India where we have this earthquakes. So ये तो सब कोई पढ़ के गया होगा ना. We have zone 2, we have zone 5. But if you can mention that this zoning was done by, it is a duty or responsibility of Bureau of Indian Standards. Most of the candidates won't be knowing this fact. So just mention in your answers. Then what? Owing to the geographical location, we are prone or vulnerable to all types of disaster. You name a disaster, we are vulnerable to it. Landslides, yes, we have landslides. Earthquakes, yes, definitely. Cyclones, why not? So Indian subcontinent, it is having a long coastline of over 8,000 kilometers. And we have cost, human cost, economic cost. And the case study which we can use and which is hailed world over, appreciated by what United Nations, is the Odisha model. Landslides, yes, we have these landslides के ऊपर already UPSC has asked questions twice in recent times. Causes of landslides in Himalayas, vis-a-vis Western Ghats. Causes, consequences, solutions. Drought. So ये सब पढ़ के गए होंगे. Drought किसको नहीं पता drought क्या होता है? But if you mention that such and such area, this much percentage of area of India, it is what, prone to drought. So it is 68% is prone to drought. If you begin your answer with this, so it gives a better impact on the examiner. And never forget to just depict these with the help of maps. Forest fires. So take the use of UNEP. Just quote UNEP. Urban fires, flood, very hot topic, always in news. And it is, unfortunately, it would be there in news for years to come. Unless and until we do not address or arrest what we are doing with the with the fluvial topography. Then a separate category, that is urban floods. They are on a rise. And what is the government doing about it? You can mention about Amrut. You can mention about Ministry of Earth Sciences. That is, we have I flows in Mumbai. What is I flows? Integrated flood warning system. Sponge cities. स्पॉन्ज सिटीज कुछ नहीं है, जैसे एक स्पॉन्ज एब्जॉर्ब करता है वाटर को, उसी तरीके से एक्विफर्स रिचार्ज हो गए. ग्लॉफ वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन. एंड क्लाउड बर्स्ट, recent examples are in Himachal. So that is it with today's session. Just go through this MIB and pick the lines, pick those reports which you can use in your answers. देखिए पढ़ के तो हर कोई जाएगा, आपने सिर्फ ये नहीं पढ़ा होगा, इसके अलावा बहुत कुछ पढ़ा होगा. But what would matter the most is, can you use this in the exam or not? That's it. That is it. So कोई भी टॉपिक है उसको ले लीजिए. What are the different issues and everything, सब कोई जानते हैं. More or less the content would be the same. Only the difference, again I am emphasizing or repeating, reiterating, is if you can reproduce these datas, reports, case studies, you are going to get good marks. Thank you and good luck.